Stepson was in the shower when I heard something I never expected. I swung the door open, and there he stood, bare, glistening, and utterly flawless. I found myself unable to resist. Welcome once again to the captivating realm of love, lies, and truths. Your support means a great deal to me, truly. If you're just joining us, be sure to subscribe and activate notifications. We share captivating stories every day that will take your breath away. Allow me to pose a question to you. What if you stumbled upon someone you know you shouldn't desire, yet the pull is undeniable? How would you navigate that tangled web of emotions? That is the moment when my tale took its first breath. Allow me to introduce myself. I am known as Lisa. I am 39 years old, exuding confidence and success, and I am married to a man whom I once thought would be my eternal partner. Our residence is a spacious, modern abode nestled in the suburban landscape of New Jersey. My husband, Brian, embodies maturity and stability, bringing a focused approach as the CEO of our family business. United, we forged a legacy. However, this is where the situation becomes intricate. Brian is the father of a son from a prior marriage. Joshua, 20, towering, fit, radiant and grinning, a visage capable of softening the hardest of metals. He took up residence with us for the duration of his summer break. Initially, I approached him as any typical stepmother might, with respect, kindness, and nothing beyond that. Yet one morning transformed it all. The hour was still young, perhaps just past 6:30 in the morning. Having just completed my morning run, I made my way upstairs to fetch a towel and indulge in a refreshing shower. I swung the bathroom door open, neglecting the customary knock. The steam enveloped me initially, and then he followed suit. Joshua, positioned in that moment, water cascaded down his sculpted back, his skin aglow with warmth, flushed from the enveloping heat. He spun around, astonished, hastily shielding himself. I apologize. A sharp intake of breath escaped my lips. Yet I remained. I find myself questioning the very reason I lingered in that spot. Perhaps it was the manner in which the droplets adhered to his skin. Perhaps it was the expression in his eyes, a blend of astonishment and intrigue. Or perhaps, just perhaps, it was something hidden deep within me, a craving I had not experienced in ages. Lisa, he said, his eyes wide with astonishment. I had no idea you were here, I said gently. I might have chosen to leave. I ought to have. Yet I refrained. Instead, I moved in closer. He allowed me to continue. My fingers grazed his arm, warm and solid. A shiver coursed through him. I did as well. A hush enveloped the space. An electrifying, perilous hush, and then it unfolded. Our lips collided. Initially uncertain, then it is urgent. The atmosphere crackled with energy. Prohibited, captivating. Within the confines of that humid bathroom, the passage of time seemed to vanish. The lines of morality have become indistinct, and I became unmoored. As the final moments faded, Josh withdrew, gasping and bewildered. This must not occur again, he murmured. I nodded, yet my heart raced, driven by a tumult of unsettling emotions. As the day wore on, I found myself before the mirror, my fingers grazing my lips, still tinged with the warmth of his recent kiss. The weight of guilt had yet to settle upon my shoulders. A tumultuous surge coursed through me, an exhilarating sensation beyond my comprehension. As I sat through the board meetings, my mind wandered relentlessly to thoughts of him. His scent lingered in the air, his skin seemed to glow in my memory, and his voice echoed softly in my ears. Deep down, I was aware of its wrongness, yet I found myself yearning for him once more. That morning was destined to be an error. Yet before long, it was I who found myself pursuing him, time and time again. He declined my request. He implored me to cease. Yet I found myself unable to do so. I found myself ensnared in a web of my own making. Have you ever yearned for something with such intensity, fully aware of its inherent wrongness? That is precisely the place I discovered myself. Trapped in a struggle of remorse and desire. Following the bathroom, everything shifted. Josh steered clear of my presence. His words were few and far between. He maintained his distance. During breakfast, he would position himself at the distant end of the table. Upon my entrance into a room, he would make his exit. Yet, I found myself unable to look away from him. The memory of our actions lingered, refusing to fade away. And even more dire, I wished to hold on to the memory. On a quiet afternoon, I discovered him solitary in the garden, tending to the flowers his father had entrusted to his care. The summer sun bathed his skin in a golden glow, rendering him almost ethereal, a being seemingly unblemished by the harshness of reality. My heart quickened at the mere sight of him. I strolled over, attempting to maintain an air of nonchalance. "Hey," I murmured gently, "do you require assistance with those?" He averted his gaze from me. "I'm fine," he stated, his voice devoid of inflection. I lingered in silence, grappling with the right words to express my thoughts. Then I exclaimed we ought to discuss what transpired. He stood still, caught in a moment of disbelief. His jaw tightened with resolve. "I have already conveyed that it was an error." "Yet it hardly seemed like an error," I murmured, drawing nearer. He glanced my way, anguish reflected in his gaze. "Lisa, you hold the role of my stepmother. This is incorrect." "Father, he has faith in you." That was painful, for he was indeed correct. Yet I found myself already losing my grip. Once more, I find myself yearning for the intoxicating allure of that elusive excitement. Under the cloak of night, I rapped gently on his door. He eased it open just a sliver. "What is it that you desire?" He murmured softly. It's been too long since we last spoke," I confessed. His gaze sought out my own. A moment of uncertainty lingered in the air. A deep yearning. "I can't," he said. "I wish to avoid causing my father any pain." He closed the door behind him. I explored every possible avenue to divert my attention. Labor, fitness, endless journeys on the open road. Yet in each still moment, his visage reappeared. The manner in which he pressed his lips against mine, the melody of his voice echoed in the shower. The heat of his skin melded with my own. All that I desired was within my grasp: dominance, wealth, achievement. Yet, in that moment, all else faded into insignificance. All I desired was him. A week later, the second encounter unfolded. In the stillness of a late evening, I caught sight of him in the kitchen. Without a shirt, beaded with perspiration, he had just completed a run. I found myself unable to resist the urge to tease him. "Text. I noticed your dedication to fitness, and I couldn't help but smile." He attempted to brush me aside. Yet I beheld it. The glimmer in his gaze, the tension that once lingered between us had returned. I approached with measured steps. Gradually, with great care. "I have not ceased to ponder your presence," I murmured. "Lisa, please don't," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "This poses a significant risk." "I know," I said, my hand resting gently on his chest. "Yet, in your presence I truly come alive, as it was in times past." He surrendered. At the break of dawn, he set out on his journey. No note provided. No message. Only silence. Much later, I caught the sound of his voice mingling with his father's from the floor below. My heart ceased to beat. I ascended the staircase with quiet caution, and I listened to words that rendered my knees unsteady. "Father, I have something to share regarding Lisa." He issued a caution. He declined. Yet I chose to ignore the words spoken, and now he is divulging everything to my husband. Ought he to have preserved the secret? Was he justified in voicing his thoughts? I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. I never imagined he would confide in his father, yet he did. And in an instant everything fell apart. As soon as Josh uttered those words, I felt a shift in the air. "Father, there's something I must share with you regarding Lisa." My chest constricted. I hurried back into my bedroom, my heart pounding in my chest. Did he truly admit to it? Or was he merely playing a clever ruse? I found it impossible to remain in one place. My palms glistened with sweat. I moved restlessly around the room, akin to a captive anticipating her fate. Time slipped away. Then came the sound of footsteps. Mark, my husband, entered the room. His complexion was notably wan, as if the very essence of life had been siphoned away from him. "Is it true?" he inquired gently. Not a single word escaped my lips. He advanced with measured intent. "Lisa, if you would be so kind, assure me that he is not telling the truth." I parted my lips. Yet the truth lingered, lodged uncomfortably in my throat. I recalled the early days of our union. There was a time when Mark and I shared a closeness that now feels like a distant memory. He treated me well. Devoted, unwavering. He bestowed upon me the universe, wealth, an exquisite residence, and a place at the helm of the company board. Yet, at some point in the journey, the affection began to wane. He became engrossed in his tasks. Loneliness enveloped me. And then there was Josh. He was in the bloom of youth. Inquisitive. Perilous, much like the allure of temptation itself. Mark perched on the edge of the bed, trembling. "I trusted you," he said, his voice trembling as he fought to maintain his composure. "You were meant to nurture him, not become this." Hot tears cascaded down my cheeks. "This was not part of my design," I murmured. "Simply occurred, and it occurred on 2 separate occasions," he snapped. "Twice." The room was enveloped in silence, and then he rose to his feet. "I seek a dissolution of our marriage. We shared ownership of the company, yet I possessed the majority of the shares. Once the divorce papers were submitted, the landscape of life shifted dramatically. I ascended to the position of the highest-paid executive within our firm, yet the murmurs within the boardroom persisted endlessly. It was common knowledge. Their eyes spoke volumes, even if their lips remained sealed. That was the fate from which I could not flee. I possessed power. I possessed a certain standing, yet what of peace? That had vanished. As darkness enveloped the room, I would find myself lying in bed, tormented by the echoes of what had slipped through my fingers. Mark, Joshua, honor. From the outside, I was the object of envy for many, yet within, I found myself unraveling. On a dreary, rain-soaked evening weeks following the dissolution of the marriage, the soft vibration of my phone interrupted the stillness. It was a digit I had yet to commit to memory. Yet I was aware of their identity. "Joshua." There was a moment of uncertainty. And then I responded. His voice carried a serene quality. "May we engage in a conversation?" He was the architect of my downfall, yet my heart quickened at the mere sight of his name. My gaze lingered on the screen. His name flickered to life, a haunting echo from my past. "Joshua." It had been silent since the moment he confided in his father. From the moment my marriage slipped away, from the moment my reality was irrevocably altered. I ought to have let the call go unanswered. Yet my fingers seemed to possess a will of their own. "Greetings." My voice trembled, scarcely rising above a whisper. He had an air of age about him, graver in tone. I simply had to share my thoughts. Face to face. We settled on a serene eatery nestled beyond the town's bustle. I made my entrance ahead of schedule. I sat by the window. The rain whispered softly against the window, mirroring the tempest brewing within my soul. Then he entered the room, calmed the same intense gaze, maintained that same tranquil confidence that had once rendered me vulnerable. Yet there was an unmistakable shift. He had transformed beyond that boy from the bathroom. He appeared to be a man burdened by guilt, much like myself. "I never intended to destroy your life," he remarked. I let out a soft scoff. "Indeed you did." Fear gripped me, he confessed. Condemned. I found myself at a loss when it came to processing what transpired between us. I cast my gaze downward. My heart raced with intensity. "What brings you here at this moment?" He took a moment to stop. "For the reason that you remain ever present in my thoughts." His words struck with an intensity one hadn't anticipated. How is it possible that I still harbor feelings for the boy who broke everything apart? Yet a haunting quality lingered in his gaze, a sense of familiarity, a deep yearning, remorse, longing. He extended his hand across the table. His fingers grazed against mine tenderly, delicately. "I miss you," he confessed. I felt the urge to distance myself. I ought to have, yet I refrained. My breath hitched. A tingling sensation danced across my skin. Visions of that sultry, clandestine encounter in the bathroom surged forth. Yet I murmured, "We cannot repeat this once more." "I know," he said, holding my gaze. "Yet I found myself compelled to seek you out. That night slumber eluded me." His words echoed endlessly in my mind. His voice resonated with a unique timbre. Those eyes of his. The soft caress. I loathed the lingering emotions that clung to me. Yet my heart remained indifferent. I possessed all that wealth could procure. Yet it was not the tranquility I sought. 2 evenings hence. A gentle rap upon my door. Delayed. Surprising. I unsealed it. "Joshua." Text drenched in the downpour. Eyes ablaze with an unnamed intensity. "I shouldn't be here," he said. And yet he truly was. I possessed it all: wealth, influence, achievement. Yet what of peace? That fateful night when I allowed him back in. I ought to have brought it down with a decisive force. However, I did not. Josh stood there, drenched by the relentless rain, resembling a wayward child rather than a grown man. Not a single word escaped his lips. There was no necessity for him to do so. I moved aside, allowing the past to retrace its steps. We found ourselves seated opposite one another in my penthouse. The stillness that enveloped us was profound, nearly unbearable in its weight. "That day lingers in my dreams," he finally confessed. With my eyes shut tight, I surrendered to the darkness. I also did. I felt a weight in my chest as I whispered, "I'm not proud of what we did." "But you desired it, just as I did," he responded, his voice soft, nearly quaking. "You took my husband from me." "No," he gently corrected. "You lost him because we ventured too far." And I spoke the truth. I inclined my head in agreement. A torment coiled within me. Yet it was not solely agony. Something continued to smolder in the air. There remains a flicker of life. I admitted that I believed I loathed you. Yet my longing for you surpassed all else. The atmosphere in the room exuded a comforting warmth. Perhaps it was merely our own experience, perched in proximity that defies the boundaries of decorum, inhaling with a weight we hadn't anticipated. I brushed my fingers against his cheek. Only a single time. Our lips collided in a tender embrace. Gently in the beginning. Is it a question? Then, as if a tempest had arrived, silence enveloped us. No longer were words necessary. Memories surged forth like a tidal wave. The lavatory, the allure, the exhilaration. Yet now everything had changed. This was not an error. This was a decision made with intent. With the dawn of a new day, the weight of reality descends once more. Sunlight streamed through the curtains. I flipped onto my side. The bed lay vacant. A solitary note rests upon the pillow. "My heart will forever belong to you. Yet we cannot continue to harm one another." Joshua. 8 months have passed. I currently possess a 60% stake in the company that my former husband and I created together. He divested his shares and relocated to a distant place. Is that you, Josh? It has been ages since that fateful night when the rain poured down. All that I desire is within my grasp. The funds, the strength, the role. Yet as darkness falls, his name lingers softly in my heart, and I ponder, have I truly lost it all? Or perhaps the sole element that has ever truly awakened my spirit? I held the position of the highest paid executive in the city. Yet what of peace? Serenity vanished the moment I succumbed to temptation and stepped into that bathroom. What actions would you have taken if you were in my position? Would you have revealed the truth? Or allowed the secret to remain hidden for eternity? Share your reflections in the comments below. If this tale resonated with you, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Love, Lies, and Truths. Prepare yourself for a daily dose of astonishing tales that will leave you breathless.